is Dr. Preeti Srinivasan, the faculty members and the organizing committee for inviting me to be the chairperson for the symposium. Now, before we could proceed further, now my humble request is, first I would like to appreciate the faculty members, the head of the department, and the organizing committee for the concern that you have for the marginalized. I'm very happy. The title of the symposium is very, very significant. Black Lives Matter, Outpourings and Poetry. Your concern for the marginalized is something that cannot be explained in words. But my humble request is, instead of just stopping at this point, conducting symposiums, organizing seminars, UGC-sponsored national seminar or international seminars, paper publications. Let's go beyond. I mean, let's carry this forward to the society so that we will be able to contribute something towards our fellow human beings. Service rendered to mankind is service rendered to God, according to Mother Teresa. Though in India, we don't have issues related to racism, but we have other issues. Let's not forget that. We have caste, creed, religion, right? Communal intolerance. So it becomes our responsibility as responsible citizens of this country to do something for our fellow human beings. And with these few words, now I'll reserve my comments for the end of the symposium, right? We will go straight into the paper presentation, right? Dr. Sivagami Narasimhan, right? We'll be presenting our paper now. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have a PowerPoint presentation for this presentation, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Please go ahead.
One minute, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No problem. Take your own time.
Is my slide are able to view my slide, sir?
No, ma'am. I'm not able to view your slide.
Now are you able to view my slide, sir?
No, ma'am. No. I do not know whether I'm the only one who's facing the problem, or no, maybe we can ask the others who have joined whether they are in a position to view your slides.
Preeti ma'am, are you able to view my slide, ma'am?
Ma'am, no, ma'am, we are not able to view your slides.
Now, Sangeetha?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Black Lives Matter.
Screen is not visible for me. For you? Is it visible for everyone? Maybe
No. Screen is not visible, ma'am. Only the participants are visible.
Yeah, ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Ma'am, it takes some time for it to get screened. Okay. So just wait for a few seconds, ma'am. It differs to the presenter and the viewer.
Well,
so
if you could send it to me, I'll send it to Nancy, and Nancy can. Sivagami, if you can just WhatsApp it to me, I can send it to Nancy.
Okay.
She can also screen.
Okay. Okay. One minute. Yes, ma'am. I'll send it to your WhatsApp, ma'am. I have forwarded to your WhatsApp, ma'am. Preeti, ma'am. Am I audible, Preeti, ma'am?
I've sent it to Nancy.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Nancy, can you open it? Nancy? What's happening? Nancy? Sivagami?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can just present. You can read the poem or whatever.
poem.
Yeah, just go ahead without the.
I'll just start with the introduction. Black Lives Matters is an international social movement. Are you able to hear my voice, ma'am? Are you
Yes,
able to
ma'am.
hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Social movement formed in the United States in 2013, dedicated to fighting racism, anti-Black violence, in particular, police brutality. BLM stresses that society values the lives and humanity of Black people as much as it values the lives and humanity of white people. BLM is a global network, non-profit civil rights organization that is active in the United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. BLM movement expanded in 2014 when two Black unarmed men were choked to death by white police. The same year, a Black teenager was shot and killed by a white police. Large protest of these deaths in the name of Black Lives Matter captured national and international attention. The BLM movement, therefore, continued to play a prominent role to demonstrate against police brutality and racism. BLM activist in 2020, George Floyd, an unarmed black man, was pronounced to death after a white policeman knelt in Floyd's neck for several minutes, despite Floyd's repeated protests that he couldn't breathe. Wide circulation of bystanders' video of Floyd's last minute triggered massive demonstrations in cities throughout the US and across the globe. BLM has many goals. BLM activist seeks to draw attention to the many ways in which Black people are treated unfairly in the society and the way in which institutions, laws, and policies help to perpetuate that unfairness. BLM movement has fought racism through various means such as political action, letter writing, campaign, and non-violent protest. BLM seeks to combat brutality or policing of minority. BLM programs have celebrated Black artists and writers. The poem I have taken it for the study, If We Must Die. I just read the poem. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us back the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock of our accused lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kingsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their thousand blows deal one death blow. What thought before us lies the open grave. Let's, like men, we will face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. If We Must Die is a poem written by Claude McKay. Claude McKay is a Jamaican immigrant to the US. Claude McKay's writing introduced many complex themes, echoed his experience in Jamaica and his stay in United States. This poem, If We Must Die, read as a protest against white violence and call for African Americans to resist oppression. The simile used in this poem by comparing African Americans as hogs and hunted, indicate that the oppression and injustice the Black community has faced historically. The hogs, often referred as domesticated animals, comparing the African Americans meeting the same fate as hogs, persecuted and confined in a shameful manner. The speaker insisted that these people must fight for a noble cause, so that even the monster, the referred as white people in the poem, whom they seek to resist, will be forced to honor the African American community although they are minority. The use of the words in a poem, such as monster, mad, and hungry dogs, refers to white people who oppose African American community in an extended metaphor. The final lines of the poem is a rousing call to his fellow kinsmen to fight the terrible discrimination they have faced both in the earlier and in the contemporary society. The second poem I've taken for the study is I Ain't Welcome Here No More by Ioda Ioli. Walk down the street and guess who I meet? The man in blues who's supposed to defend, but instead they chose to apprehend. They slap, punch, choke me red. They won't stop till I end up dead. Oh, stop. Please, I can't breathe. I beg of you, just go and leave. My cries all disappear out of sight. I will end up dead if I try to fight. His knee is up against my throat. No one can stop him. They all too remote. My God, what country do I call this? A nation where the popo can just get bliss at my expense. I kid you now, I will be beat, stepped on, or even shot. This nonsense must stop, but of course I won't. All I can do is scream, please don't. And I bleed here, lying dead on the floor. I know I ain't welcome here no more. This is a contemporary poem and it's in the prosaic form. The poem is, this poem is an outpouring of the present scenario experienced by African Americans in America. This poem vividly expressed the emotional and physical combat faced by the blacks in America. In the poem, men in blues and pops are referred as white police who was to defend and create bliss in the society. Ironically, they are the problem shooters and create chaos in the society. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for that presentation. May we have the next person to present?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, ma.
Yeah, I'm Fathima Naseem. So, before going to the presentation, I would like to present the song which I'm going to discuss.
Yes, ma.
Yeah. Is my screen visible? So,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
yeah.
Ma'am, the song is not audible. Fatima, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
The song is not audible, ma'am.
Okay. Can I play it again, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, please. Fatima, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, Fatima, ma'am. But then
Yes, sir.
there is a participant who has just posted this in the chat box,
Yeah.
saying that in Google Meet we will not be able to hear the sound of the video. And the head of the department, Dr. Preeti Srinivasan, ma'am, has come up with an idea. Maybe you can read the lyrics to us.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay.
So I'm reading the lines of the song, sir. I can breathe, I can breathe. Yeah, this is a revolution in our time. Everybody's fighting. Change coming. Yes, that's why it's an acronym for riot. Everybody has a voice. Don't you dare stay silent. If you say nothing, you are an accessory to violence. Let these words dry the tears of the people that are crying. We can bring back hope, but not the people that are dying. This is what happens when the people you have oppressed ask for change in the country that they built, but you ignored and denied. This for Sandra Bland, George Floyd, and every single family police brutality has intervened and destroyed. Couple back cops can define all you other guys. So every good cop needs to stand up and make some noise. Black, white, Asian doesn't matter because we can't avoid. So let's all come together, join hands, and yes, get annoyed at people who believe racism makes sense. In a country built of minority, slave work employed, nobody born racist man. It's something you learn, deep rooted in your brain from the day of your birth. I think it's time that we repair all of the bridges we have burnt and let love out of our hearts onto our cheeks we turn. Spread love, show love. Let's get rid of this curse. Don't wait for anyone to act, man. You go first. 400 years wasted. Let's get rid of this hurt, cause that's the only way we'll ever see peace on earth. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Change is what we really need. Cut me open. Cut you open. Red's the color every single human bleeds. Let's come together, cops, citizens, and in between, and rally for the rights of everybody in humanity. Black, blue, white, green, playing for the team. I'm not MLK, but boy, that doesn't mean I can't dream. Black Lives Matter shouldn't anger you or make you scream, all lives matter, because we aren't treated equally. Remember when we were kids and didn't see color, and when we played in kindergarten and I called you my brother? Then we grew up and they taught us we should hate on each other, even though we one in the same and we all came from our mothers. I hope you all understand. Hate is not a trait, it was learned, man. Equality is the quality we need inside this earth, man. Give and receive. It's the karma that you earn, man. I can't breathe. Is my PPT visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. It's visible.
Yeah. So I would like to begin it with this picture, which actually describes more about the song. I feel like when we are in shortness of breath, when we are unable to breathe, we immediately seek for something that will make us, at ease. So that's why I thought of placing this picture here, that a woman is seeking for an inhaler when she's suffering from shortness of breath. That is, I can't breathe. I can breathe is are the last words of most of the victims of Black Lives Matter. It's also the slogan of the Black Lives Matter. It's not just the pain of the dead, but also the people who are living but are under constant threat. So I would like to state some of the people who repeatedly said, I can't breathe when dying, like Eric Garner, 43 years in 2014, Hector Ariola, 30 years in 2017, Muhammad Abdul Muhaimin, 43-year-old in 2017, Elijah McClain, 23 years old in 2019, and finally George Floyd, 46 years in 2020. These are just the list who repeatedly uttered, I can't breathe when the police brutality occurred. Why I chose, why I began with this is because the song Black Lives Matter had the repeated words of I can't breathe, I can't breathe. So that is the major thing which gives a feel to the song. And the song is presented, directed in such a way that pictures really could bring us the reality of what's actually happening in Black lives. So this song is sung and written by Dax. It's produced by Baba Sauce, directed by Damien Sanderman. It actually sheds light on racism. To coming to the genre, it's a combination of hip hop and rap. So I would like to highlight few of the important points which has been stated in this song, Black Lives Matter. That is, initially he begins with saying like, when we are silent, it is equal to violence. So don't be silent, you act first. That those lines keep repeating in the song. And this Black Lives Matter will definitely bring hope, but it cannot bring those who are dead back to life. So it talks about in this song. It states about two people, Sandra Bland and George Floyd. But he says like it doesn't stop with them; it keeps going. It's not just two of them; it keeps going. We cannot. It's not. It doesn't stop with them, and the families who have been affected because of them are still suffering. And one more thing is that he says like not all the cops are bad. There are good cops as well, and few of them are very brutal towards the black people. And no one is born racist. That's very true. I would like to say that a Tamil song which is very popular, that is Enda Kurandeyum Nalla Kurandeyam. So we are all not born racist. It's all been thrust upon us only after our birth. So beginning from civil rights till now, people have been fighting for a lot of things. And now it's racism which is very predominant. So what we should do is to bring a change just by bridging the gap. Actually, the gap which is between the blacks and the white is very wide. We have to bridge it through love. I would like to quote a line from the song, cut me open, cut you open, where's the color, every single human please. That's very true. I actually compared this with one of the comic line of comedian Vadivelu, that is Enakku Vanda Ratham Unakku Vanda Takkali Chutniya. Maybe it sounds funny in this movie, but every time I take it very serious, that I actually compare it with these lines. That's very true. When something happens to us, we take it seriously, but when something happens to others, oh, it's for others, it's not for us. That's the way we react. That it should not be. That's why he begins the song by saying silence is equal to violence. If you're silent, which means you're supporting that. Please don't be like that. Don't wait for anyone. You just come first and act. So when we were kids, we didn't see color. As we could see in the picture, the blacks and whites, they are together. They don't see anything. They want to be happy. That's all they know. Being kids, they just want to be together, play together, have fun. That's the only thing they in the mind. But later on, when they grew up, it's been taught to them that you should hate. White should hate black. That's what been taught. As I said, not all the bad cops are bad. Similarly, not all whites are bad. It's been a group of people who still believe racism is good. So that's actually wrong. So he says hate is not a trait. Equality is what we should bring in. So why are the blacks oppressed? So I would like, whatever problem occurs, there is always a question why. So if we see why blacks are oppressed by whites, it's just because when I went through statistical data, I came to know that whites consider black as threat because blacks are huge in number. Blacks are, tall and strong. Actually, they are tall and strong, but they take it like they could do anything for us. They could affect whites, but it's not the case. It is an assumption actually that one more assumption is that whites are innocent, but blacks, yeah, whites are innocent and blacks are not. So all these things have been, when you repeatedly say a lie, it becomes the truth. So similarly, it's been told to people, and it is believed to be a truth, but it's not. So something like that. And when we even give the names of blacks to whites, even that is taken as a threat. That any black people's name is also a threat to whites. That's how their mind is. That's how they are prepared. I don't mean the entire whites. Those who really support racism, they have mentally prepared them like this. And there is there is also a thought like whites actually belong to America, and blacks belong to Africa. So why should they come? And all this kind of feeling is also there. Moreover, dehumanization bias, like whites don't take blacks as people at all. They don't treat them as human beings. That is the reason they go to that extent of brutality, police for that matter. They don't feel the pain of them. So one more thing, whites believe that we are the supernormal powers and we could do anything with blacks. So that thought is also there. I would like to validate this with the help of self-affirmation theory. So this is one of the psychological theory by Claude Steele. And what this theory states is that how does a human react when his or her self-integrity is in threat? There are actually two ways in which a human could respond. One is to surrender and accept their defeat. It's like going beyond your ego. I mean, you leave your ego and say, sorry, I accept I'm defeated. But that's the one way to do it, so to keep their self-integrity intact. And the second way is to act defensively without accepting the defeat. So that's how, the white police react to the blacks. They feel that blacks should not exist. Their numbers, the threat which they feel inside, to overcome that, they actually act defensively, very brutally, which actually causes pain to the blacks that whites don't realize. So that this theory actually validates why the white police are brutal towards the black. What happens to the blacks then? How do they feel? That they are living under constant threat, not just by the white people. They are not even allowed to live in the main parts of the cities. They have been marginalized, not by the living. They are not just affected by the existence of white people, but also like they have to move to the places where there are so many natural calamities affecting them. So they are in two ways affected. So they feel very low, and that's what actually the brutal white people want the blacks to feel. So what would be the solution for this? I would like to say this. As stated in the song, all lives matter. It's not just white or black. Everything is beautiful. Black is even beautiful. Not just white is beautiful. So what could be the solution to this could be explained through this quote by Anna Baker. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons becomes as important to the rest of the country as the killing of white mother's son, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until this happens. So only when the mentality of people changes that racism is not good, everybody is human being ultimately at the end. Life is very short. Until we live, we all should live in harmony and peace. When this thought comes to everybody, there will be no problem. I could end by saying that all lives matter. Thank you.
Good, Fathima Naseem, ma'am. God bless. Good presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Can we have Professor Sangeetha? to present
Yes.
a paper.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody who joined the meeting today. It's a pleasure being amidst all of you. Sir, we have a short presentation, a performance or dramatization of the poem.
Okay, poetry
Uh,
rendition, right, ma'am? By the
um,
theatre group.
yeah, it's not just a reading, but then we prepared a video, but then we're just having problem sharing it. So meanwhile, I'll just project the poem on screen. We'll
Please,
just do
please,
the
please
reading.
go ahead, ma'am.
And moreover, sir, I've given the link in the chat box. It's quite a lengthy poem, so
Okay.
I've given the link in the chat box. So those who are in the link can read the poem, and meanwhile, when the video is getting ready, we just read the poem. So. Yeah, hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is
Yes.
visible.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. The link is also there in the chat box. People can read.
Yes.
It's quite a lengthy poem, so I don't think we can fully read the poem. And we have also chosen select stanzas from the poem for presentation as well, for the
Okay, okay.
performance as well.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
because of time constraints, we have to restrict it.
Okay, okay.
Okay. I request all the everybody in the link to read the poem, so we can go into performance. Sorry for the inconvenience. Yes, sir, I'll start my presentation. The video is almost ready. Maybe after the presentation, we can watch the performance,
Yes, ma'am.
if you
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
mind.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Okay, sir. So the poem I've chosen for today's presentation is 8 minutes 46 seconds by Donna Aeza Soli. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing the name. So this before going into the analysis of the poem, let me just introduce the poet. She is currently an associate professor of English and an affiliate faculty member in African and African Diaspora Studies, Women's Studies, and the Latin American and Caribbean Center at Florida International University. So she's a contemporary writer, and then she has recorded the suffocation of George Floyd, the 8 minute 46 seconds of
Ma'am,
suffocation.
good
Yes.
evening, ma'am.
Okay, let me continue. The poem elaborates the 8 minute 46 second suffocation of an innocent black victim, George Floyd, who was crushed to death on 25th May 2020. The poet dramatizes the corporal punishment inflicted on Floyd as she begins the poem with lights, camera, and action. Even though it's a poem, I would like to look at it in the performance perspective. I would like to look at the structure of the poem and the content of the poem in the performance perspective. So as the poem begins, she starts with lights, camera, and action. And Soli's record of events emphasizes the strong connection between protest and performance. Protest through performance is one of the strongest ways to rebel against the existing domination or hierarchy. Protest or performance poetry is one of the forms that flickers the anger or the rage that exists within the reader or the audience or the performer himself or herself. The murder of Floyd can be termed as a choreographic death that took place under the vigilance of the autocrats who were silent audience who merely witnessed the cruel, remorseless act. The spatial restrictions imposed on the protesters are a parallel to the restrictions of the body fluidity in a performance on stage. Derek Chauvin, as you can see in the image, one of the police officers who pinned down Floyd, stands as an epitome of police brutality, racial intolerance, and the ruthless subversion of democracy that force victims to seek help only from their ancestors. So we can see that when the act happened, when George Floyd was manhandled and handcuffed and was pinned to death, we did not have any people who stepped forward to help that man. For almost 8 minutes, he was suffering. That can show the indifference and also the lack of power. Now, police officers have the power in their hands, that they misuse their power or they don't use it for the right purpose. So the image shows how the white man is thrusting his knees on Floyd. It's a symbol of racism as well as the power domination that exists. We all are aware of the repercussions of Floyd's death, where mass protesters, inclusive of all races, were on the streets of America despite the pandemic. So we can see in the images that everybody's wearing a mask. So there's this question of whose lives really matter. Is the Black lives matter than their own lives? So that was the time when the first wave was at its peak. But still we have people on the roads, irrespective of which race they belong to. And that's a very powerful image of the American flag wrapped around her head. So that's the difference between the civil rights movement that existed earlier and the Black Lives Movement, the progress in the movement, where people are more assertive and strong now. However, even though the people were reacting to it, the former president of America turned a blind eye to this unrest. The obvious transition in the blacks from the civil rights movement to the Black Lives Matter movement is their assertion towards their black identity. Earlier, people were they were ashamed or offended when they were addressed as blacks, whereas now we have T-shirts, young boys or girls wearing T-shirts, asserting their identity, and we have trending hashtags, and they're proud of their black identity. So now they are proud being addressed as a black, which shows their resilience, acceptance, and assertion of their black identity. It can also be called, I quote, the intersections of blackness. Solely represents the power of the black women warriors who rebelled against the racial domination during the civil rights movement. So we have three. I've just picked a stanza from the poem where the poet highlights the women warriors of the civil rights movement. So in the poem, there is this cry of Floyd that keeps resonating, and he calls for his mama. He doesn't call for anybody else. It's such a vulnerable moment where a man who's almost 6 feet, as my colleague referred in her presentation, they are big built, they are tall, they are macho, but still, that's a moment of vulnerability where such a tall man is seeking or crying for his mother. He has no there's no humanity that exists in that particular space that he could reach out. And it's the police officers who are manhandling him. Okay, so in the poem, we have reference to several women activists who were extremely active during the civil rights movement. And then we have images of Harriet, Mama Harriet, and Fannie Lou Hamer and Audre Lorde. All three of them were very active during the civil rights movement. And the repetition of Kumbaya Mama in the poem. Kumbaya means come by here. So come by here, Mama. That's Kumbaya Mama. That keeps repeating throughout the poem. So it's just how all of us feel vulnerable at a point, and we feel powerless. And when we are powerless, whom do we really call out to or reach out to? Whom do we really want? It's our mothers. We need our mothers to come and fight for us. And the mother is a woman figure. Usually women are, especially black women, were doubly oppressed. They were oppressed for their race and sex. But here, the poet gives a very strong image of all the women who are part of the civil rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. So when we read the poem, we'll get to know about a lot of women characters or activists during the period. And then a new term, colorblind racism, is a term coined by Eduardo Bonilla Silva that refers to the contemporary institutional racism that is implicit rather than explicit. The legacy of slavery has transformed into the negligence of the vitality of the black lives. There's an invisibility of the blacks in the society now. Earlier it was slavery, where they were denied education, they were denied their basic rights, they were literally treated like savages. But now there is a transition in the millennium, in this millennium. So they are getting educated, they are in good jobs. We also had a Afro-American president, but still there is this lack of, there is this insensitivity towards the life of the blacks. They are there, they do exist, but their rights, they are still being ill-treated. So there's kind of a black invisibility that exists currently. And then the black lives, and here in this image, I have to talk about the image. So here, as my colleague also told, that not all whites are racist. So we have a group of lawyers who are kneeling down as a tribute, remembering the brutal death of George Floyd. And then in another placard, it says, slavery never ended, it just evolved. So that's the progress, that's the evolution of the racism in the American society. Moving on. The Black Lives Matter movement is against the institutional racism, and the poet uses implicit conventions like #45, referring to the former president of America. So in this image, we can see the number 45 in the coffin. So instead of directly telling the name Donald Trump, we are indirectly hinting at him because he's the 45th president of America. So these were the trending hashtags of the Black Lives Matter movement. Justice for Floyd. I can't breathe is something we can't breathe that was so prevalent in all over the media. So talking about media, we did have black victims throughout. There are a lot of black victims, but maybe we can segregate it like before Floyd and after Floyd. So when Floyd was killed, it kind of aggravated because it was a pandemic, and then the question of is racism the real pandemic? Is racism existing in the pandemic, or is racism the real pandemic? So, as a political leader, he was extremely biased, and we all know that he is a racist. So, this was when he walked out of the White House with the Bible in his hand. So, this is just an illustration of how he was insensitive to the injustice that was done to Floyd, being a political leader. And then, Black Lives Matter movement is significant for its inclusivity. It is no more blacks fighting for blacks, children or people of it is no more blacks fighting for blacks, children or people of all races stand up and race against the inhuman racial hierarchy. So even in the poem we have references to Maoris, Japanese, Koreans, and people from Thailand. So it's not just confined to the blacks shouting for the rights of the blacks. So this image is it's a good amalgamation of the past and the present. So this is not a real photograph. So this has been edited, where we have Martin Luther King in the first row, and then we have placards which says Black Lives Matter, which is a very contemporary movement. So we have to refer to the past when we are talking about the Black Lives Matter movement as well. So we cannot segregate us from that. It's just the view and approach and the resilience that has how it has evolved. So it's the same. But then how people were looking at themselves as blacks then, and then how they look at themselves as blacks now. That's the evolution. But then the power and the impact is still the same. Okay, so I just looked at the structure of the poem in a dramatic way, like how a silent audience, when a murder scene is happening on stage or when they're performing it, we just look at it as audience. We don't really go stop the person from doing that, from murdering the fellow actor. So this act was typically something like that, where everybody just viewed it like silent audience, like it's just being performed, and having the title as 8 minutes 46 seconds, something that it looks like a tragedy, like we are watching a tragedy, and it's the fall of the tragic hero. So we are merely witnessing we're just witnessing the brutal act, and then we are not doing anything when the actual killing is happening. But then later, when you look at the protest part, it's more like third theater. Third theater is people's theater. It comes out of the stage, and then all the people are getting connected, and that's third theater. So the protest is more like your third theater, where the people are on the roads, they're completely out there, and they're fighting. So it's stepped from that. It stepped from that position and it has come to the hands of the commoners. So I just look at it from the performative evolution as well. I just related it with a theater and a performance. Yes, sir, that is it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sangeetha ma'am, for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir. One second, sir. I'll
yes,
just check if the performance is ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Yamini, can you share your screen? Yeah. I hope we get the audio because we just figured out that the audio is a trouble in Google Meet. Okay, I think it was. Yeah, 1 second. Just Yamini, just hold on. Abhisha is just helping us with getting the audio connected. Abhisha, sorry to interrupt, sir. Can we have Abhisha talk so that we can try and get the audio?
Yes, ma'am, no problem.
Yeah. Abhisha, can you just unmute and direct the person who's presenting? Okay, but she doesn't. Okay.
Ma'am, but there is a setting. I'll
Okay.
find it. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, we'll just play the video for now. Later on, maybe we can share a Google Drive link so that we can individually watch it later. Hope that is okay, ma'am. So,
Can I share can I share a Zoom link so that we can move to that?
yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay, I'll share with you Zoom link. Just a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. We tried in the afternoon. I could get the audio, but since there is a change in the device, we are not able to get the audio. I'm so sorry, all the friends.
Yeah, I posted it in tandem and I'll copy it here. Yeah, you can just, we can all move to this Zoom if you don't mind. I hope you can join. Then can we exit the Google Meet?
Yes, ma'am. We can
Because
continue.
it will clash. So we'll
Yes.
just wait for 2 minutes for everyone to come.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, ma'am.
Because I keep saying see children. See, black is a very significant term because it is moving from African American to black. It's a very inclusive term because of the multiculturalism and the evolution. You can see that they're not all black people are not in Africa, in America, are not necessarily African American. And I just wanted to share this link about the famous singer Harry Belafonte. He's Jamaican. Okay, Jamaican, and you know that if you read up a lot on the Harlem Renaissance, you'll see a lot of the people who are black, they're not necessarily African American, not people who came from Africa, who have that African origin. That's one thing. So then I also have this story in Australia where this person, Roberta Sykes, she identified as Aboriginal, and later it was found that she had African American ancestry, and so there was a lot of debate about her identity, and she asserted that she's Black Australian. Okay, so she wanted that kind of inclusiveness, and she also had a stint in America. She studied in Harvard University. That's the first point I want to make is that black is a term that needs to be interrogated with a lot of scholarship. And there are transnational flows. Okay, if you look at that poem also, she's referring to the New Zealand, the Maori. That poem in itself is subject for a thesis, a huge thesis, just that one poem which Sangeetha has presented. So these are my only remarks and comments. Then can we exit now, Google Meet? Thank you, sir, for giving me permission to say a few words. Thank you.